And welcome. I'd like to call the regular village board meeting for May 4th, 2026 to order. Clerk Benton, please call the roll.
Mayor Mullen.
Here.
Trustee Duffy is absent. Trustee Grau.
Here.
Trustee McGovern.
Here.
Trustee McQuillan.
Here.
Trustee Olson.
Here.
Trustee Sima.
Here.
Thank you very much. And now will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And tonight, under appointments, proclamations, and presentations, we have two proclamations. The first is a proclamation recognizing the week of May 3rd as Public Service Recognition Week in the village of Lisle. The proclamation reads, whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, local levels, these unsung heroes do the work that keep our nation working. And whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, border patrol officers, embassy employees, healthcare professionals, and others risk their lives every day in service to the people of Lisle, the state of Illinois, and the United States and around the world. And whereas public employees serve in areas such as education, the arts, the environment, public infrastructure, parks, community planning, finance, recreation, information technology, human resources, communications, and more. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. And now therefore be it proclaimed, I, Mary Jo Mullen, Mayor of the Village of Lisle, do hereby announce and proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2026 as Public Service Recognition Week and encourage all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, and local. Village Manager Cook, would you please accept this proclamation on behalf of the village staff?
All right. One. Oh, come on. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Excellent.
And our second proclamation is a proclamation recognizing Michael Calderon as the Honorary Chief of Police on May 4th, 2026. Would Honorary Chief of Police Michael Calderon and his dad come on down to the podium? I'm going to read the proclamation while you're coming down. Whereas Michael Calderon is a student at All Saints Academy, and whereas through the generosity of his mother, Anita Nowak, was the winner of the Chief for a Day prize at the All Saints Academy annual dinner dance auction. And whereas Michael had the opportunity to work alongside members of the Lisle Police Department learning about public safety and participating in departmental activities, and whereas this experience reflects the strong partnership between law enforcement and the community and highlights the importance of inspiring young people through positive engagement. And whereas Michael's demonstrated enthusiasm, curiosity, and leadership throughout the day, embodying the spirit of public service and community pride. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, I, Mary Jo Mullen, Mayor of the Village of Lisle, do hereby announce and proclaim Michael Calderon as Honorary Chief for the day on May 4th, 2026, and thank him for his service to the community.
Can I get a picture with the mayor?
So next up are appointments to boards, committees, and commissions of the Village of Lisle. Prior to asking for a motion, I'd like to review the board and commission reappointments that are planned for tonight. For Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, we're reappointing Kelly Dixit to a 3-year term ending April 30th, 2029. For Planning and Zoning Commission, we're reappointing Zangita Santhanam to a 3-year term ending April 30th, 2029. For Police Pension Fund Board of Trustees, reappointing Gary Ledvora for a 2-year term ending May 9th, 2028. And Public Art and Special Events Advisory Committee, reappointing Rocky Ruggiero to a 2-year term ending April 30th, 2028. May I have a motion to confirm the mayor's reappointments as presented?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any public comment on these? Any board discussion? Clerk Benton, please call the roll.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee McGovern?
Aye.
Trustee Grau?
Aye.
Trustee McQuillan?
Aye.
Trustee Olson?
No.
And the appointments are passed, which will bring us to, let me just make a quick announcement. I'll be making other appointments to fill open boards and commission positions at a future meeting. If any Lisle resident is interested in serving their community, I encourage them to submit an application on our website. It's on the website under Boards, Commissions, and Committees section. And that will bring us to public comment. If anyone wishes to provide public comment for the evening, we provide 5 minutes per person. Please come on down to the podium and provide your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Karen Larson. I'm a resident in Lisle. I live on Schwartz Avenue. I'm here to ask you to hold off on approving a 45% water rate increase over the next 5 years. In case you haven't heard, there's an affordability crisis in Illinois. We have the highest property taxes in the country, and we all just got sticker shock with new tax bills. I tried to get more information via FOIA on why a 45% water rate hike is needed. I received back pages and pages of rejected emails and complete denials of water fund budget numbers. There are no reports that study the past 5 years of actual revenues and expenditures. There are no reports studying water main breaks. There are no reports with planning for obtaining grant funding for capital water projects. There is no optimization looking at reducing peak year capital costs by spreading the projects out over the years. I still don't know if the $7.1 million borrowed from the water fund in 2007 was paid back in full with interest. When you get back FOIA's rejected and denied records, nothing can be verified. Higher water rates are going to most significantly impact the residents that can least afford it, just adding to overall affordability crisis in Illinois. No one is getting a 9% raise. Social Security payments aren't not going up 45% over the next 5 years. Property taxes keep going up, outpacing inflation. These rate increases are unacceptable. Please go back and get these numbers to something more manageable, like a 3 to 4% annual increase. Whatever you do, do not approve a 45% water rate increase.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rachel.
Okay. Susan Srail, my helper's here tonight again. I totally agree with what the lady just said here earlier. I'll be up later to talk about it on the agenda item. I'm here tonight because, again, I'm paying another $256 water bill, and it's crickets from this board. So my concern is, I know that we talked, and I know that you guys have taken the wheeling agreement out of this increase, but I know that it's coming. It will come. You guys have done it before, so it's going to happen. And Illinois, and customers of Illinois American, unincorporated and incorporated, are going to get hit. I also want the people to understand that the $7.1 million that everybody's talking about affects Anybody within the boundaries of Lisle, whether unincorporated or incorporated, you are affected by that money that was taken out. Again, FOIAs are not being answered for any of this. They are being denied. I received 6 FOIAs denied in the last week. So, nobody wants to give the information of where the money is, when it was paid back, how it was paid back, where the funds were coming from, conversations, and you can't go back to any conversations with Mayor Broda from 2007 when the money was taken out, because from 2007 to 2019, any conversations, any text messages, any emails, anything has been deleted. It does not exist. So, I find that a little strange. I don't know if the rest of the people in Lisle do, but people need to understand what's going on down here and the fiscal responsibility of this board. This isn't just Oakview I'm talking about tonight. This is about the whole of Lisle. If you pay Illinois American, you pay the Village of Lisle at all, whether you're incorporated or unincorporated, this affects you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Excuse me. Seeing none, moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed as part of the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and will be voted on together as a group unless a member of the village board requests that it be considered separately. Tonight's consent agenda includes the April 20th regular board and committee of the whole meeting minutes and the May 4th invoice list. Does anyone on the board wish to remove an item for separate consideration? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and ask Village Manager Cook to provide an overview of each item on the consent agenda.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and members of the Village Board. You can see that tonight's consent agenda is certainly at the beginning of the fiscal year, as we will be going through item Q tonight. Item A approves the regular Village Board meeting minutes for April 20th, 2026. Item B approves the minutes for April 20th, 2026 for the Committee of the Whole meeting. Item C approves the invoice list for May 4th, 2026 in the amount of $910,054.95. Item D approves a special event permit for the downtown Lisle car shows planned for Saturday, May 16th, June 20th, and July 18th. The special event permit was recommended for approval by the Public Art and Special Event Advisory Committee. Item E approves an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 12 of the Village's Code of Ordinances to reduce the number of voting members on the Economic Development Commission from 7 to 5. Item F approves a resolution authorizing the execution of a master agreement and associated task orders with Baxter and Woodman Incorporated for engineering and GIS services for fiscal year 26-27 in an amount not to exceed $479,971.36. Item G approves a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a one-year contract extension with B&F Construction Code Services Incorporated for plan review and inspection services in an amount not to exceed $60,000. Item H approves the resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a one-year contract extension with Fire Safety Consultants Incorporated for fire alarm and fire sprinkler plan review and inspection services. Item I approves an ordinance approving variances for minimum side street setback and outdoor lighting standards for property located at 1101 Warrenville Road. This ordinance relates to ongoing improvements at the existing BP station at the southeast corner of Warrenville Road and Route 53, and allows for the installation of an additional pump station canopy along Route 53, as well as updated lighting on the site. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this ordinance, and that's presented here this evening on the consent agenda. Item J approves the resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code in the amount of $966,982. Passage of this resolution is required as part of the process to expend motor fuel taxes, which are used to pay for this year's street rehabilitation program. Item K approves a resolution authorizing award of a contract to Schroeder Asphalt Services Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $966,440.55 to complete this year's street rehabilitation program. Schroeder was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder of 7 bids received for this work and previously completed work to the village's satisfaction in 2025. Item L continues with our street rehabilitation program and is a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement with Engineering Enterprises Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $99,982 for construction observation services associated with that rehabilitation program. Item M approves a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a one-year contract extension with Homer Tree Care Incorporated for tree trimming and removal services in an amount not to exceed $46,150. This contract was bid in 2023, and approval of the resolution would exercise the third-year option year, which holds pricing steady per the original bid. Item N approves a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a one-year contract extension with Rags Electric for streetlight repair services in the amount not to exceed $55,000. This contract was also bid in 2023, and approval of this resolution would also exercise a third option year. Item O approves a resolution authorizing the issuance of a purchase order for replacement parkway trees from West Central Municipal Conference in an amount not to exceed $30,000. Tree pricing is set through a joint bid process administered by the Suburban Tree Consortium, which represents 40 municipalities in northeastern Illinois. This year's budget allows for planting of approximately 75 parkway trees under the program. Item P approves a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a one-year contract extension with LRS Clean Sweep for street sweeping services in an amount not to exceed $92,592. LRS Clean Sweep was the sole bidder in 2023 and has performed street sweeping to the village's satisfaction since then. This year's contract renewal is the third option year bid and includes a unit price increase of 7%. Lastly, item Q approves a resolution authorizing the issuance of a purchase order for uniforms and equipment to Ray O'Hare and Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $31,000. Ray O'Hare remains the sole known brick and mortar police uniform vendor capable of meeting the needs of the Lisle Police Department, and the company submitted a fixed price quote for fiscal year 26-27. Their nearby location in Downers Grove makes the company well suited to serve the Lisle PD. Staff is recommending village board approval of items A through Q as presented. Thank you.
Thank you for the review. May I have a motion to approve items A through Q?
So moved.
Second.
There's motion and second. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Any discussion? Village Clerk Benton, please call the roll.
Trustee Saima.
Aye.
Trustee McGovern.
Aye.
Trustee Grau.
Aye.
Trustee McQuillan.
Aye.
Trustee Olson.
Aye.
And consent agenda is passed. Moving on to our regular agenda, first up is an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 20, Fees, Fines, Insurance, Guarantees, and Regulatory Measures of the Lisle Village Code incorporating updated water and sewer rates. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved. Second.
There's motion and second. Would Manager Cook please provide an overview of this item?
Certainly, Mayor. Tonight's regular agenda, item A, approves an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 20 of the Village's Code of Ordinances to incorporate an updated schedule of water and sewer rates. The ordinance presented includes provisions to establish the rate structure as of May 1st, consistent with the village's billing periods, and therefore requires approval by a 2/3 majority vote of the corporate authorities. Before I turn it over for board discussion, I can share some background on the process leading up to tonight's rate ordinance. Back in October, the board hired 1898 and Company, a subsidiary of the engineering firm Burns and McDonnell, to evaluate the village's current rate structure and ensure the operation of the village's water and sewer utility is positioned for financial stability while meeting future operational and capital needs. 1898 and Company presented their findings and recommendations at the Committee of the Whole meeting in March, and the village board accepted the final report in April. The ordinance presented this evening implements the recommended phased rate adjustment over the next 5 years. Factors that contributed to the need for the increased rates included an ongoing need to renew or replace aging infrastructure, increased costs associated with the changing regulatory environment on water and sewer, general inflationary effects on operating and capital costs, and generally a decreasing consumption trend across that sector for higher efficiency appliances and water conservation efforts. Another key consideration was maintaining the village's long-term policy approach to cash funding capital expenses rather than relying on debt issuance. The ordinance implements a 1.5% per year sewer rates increase and water rates increases at 9% in the first 2 years and 7% in the last 3 years. Ongoing annual rate adjustments based on the Water and Sewer Utility Inflation Index are also included to rein in any future need for such adjustments. Implementation of the rate structure is expected to increase the bi-monthly bill for an average village water account of 10,000 gallons per every 2 months from $88.72 to $96.08 in the first year, which by 2031 would increase to $126.06. So on a monthly basis, the initial increase is $3.68 per month on that average bill. As presented in March, Lisle's current rate structure is the lowest amongst nearby DuPage communities and will remain the lowest after full implementation, or among the lowest at least, even when compared to rates that are presently charged by nearby DuPage communities. Last, I'd like to address any confusion there might be related to municipal financial statements and the current need to increase utility rates. In short, back in 2007, the village's water and sewer utility did loan the village's corporate capital fund $7.1 million, which would be paid back over 13 years beginning in 2015 with interest. We all know what happened after 2007, and so when it came time for the village to pay principal back in 2015, the board did look and revise the amortization schedule and extended repayments out through 2040, effectively reducing the village's annual capital payments to the water fund by $250,000 per year. Throughout the entire time, however, interest was compounding and accrued for the benefit of the water fund. Payments began in 2015, and the entire balance was paid off 20 years early in 2020. All of this isn't just me saying it, it's all discernible in the village audit records, which I can highlight using the projector. As you see up on the screen, in fiscal year 15, on the left side, you have the amortization schedule showing a principal amount due of $260,349.51. On the right, you see the cash flow analysis for the water fund showing that payment as revenue of $260,350. I'm not going to read every single dollar amount on this, but we can do that for 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, showing the full repayment of $6.283 million back to the water fund. Now, it's not only showing on the cash flow statements, it also shows in the net position statement. And here in fiscal year 19, you can see that the current assets balance is almost $8.3 million. Carried as a receivable is $6.283 million in the water construction fund. So on the bottom line of net position, it would make no difference whether it was a receivable or cash. The bottom line would be the same. But there's those numbers. And if we look to fiscal year 20, all of a sudden the receivable is no longer there, and current assets increase by over $6 million to a total of $14.6 million. So all this information is right there in our annual audit reports. They're available on our website for anybody to download. You don't even have to FOIA them. And that concludes that information. I hope there's no more confusion on that point.
Thank you for that. Any public comment on this item?
Okay. Again, I would like to talk about this $7.1 million that you say has been repaid, which is fine. You showed it tonight that it has been repaid. My question to you is, why the increase in water then? If there's so much cash flow in the water fund, why are you increasing these rates on these people? I do not understand. I don't get it. The DuPage County has not increased the rates. Why are you increasing rates? What are you going to use the money for? Are you going to transfer these out to use it for something else again downtown? Are you charging the people more money so that you have more cash flow to extend to another fund later? So you don't raise the property taxes, so then you can be like, oh yeah, we didn't raise property taxes on you people. We just raised your water rates. Because that's what it's been used for. You've used the wheeling fund over the years, you've used the water fund, and you've just used it as your slush fund for whenever you want to do something around here. That's not what it's for. It's an enterprise fund. It's supposed to be used for water and sewer. Again, I have asked for FOIAs about information about this. Denied, denied, denied. Why was I denied? I will explain that to you. This is interesting. Because there's 10,000 pages of documents. Because I'm asking about money and where it's going and emails and any information to do with this between mayors, the finance department. They don't want to, nobody wants to respond to that. But you had no problem sending me 35,000 emails. That wasn't a burden, but it's a burden to send 10,000? So, I'm saying it's wrong. It's wrong to raise the rates of the water on these people. I know what it's like to get a rate increase. This is nothing compared to what I get. Nothing. Not even close. But it's wrong. And again, that's what you're using it for. You're going to use it for a slush fund. I know what you're doing. That's exactly what the boards have done in the past. And I question, when it was supposed to be paid back in 2007, why it wasn't paid back. That's interesting. That entire board and what they did with the water fund, what they did to Oakview, and the opportunities that we gave them coming forward, There's something wrong with the finances in this department, in this village. I do know that when Mayor Pisak came in, from what I've heard, there were all kinds of little tiny funds that were taken from large funds and dispersed all over, and supposedly he had to clean it up. That's how the mafia embezzles money. That's how people embezzle money, by making smaller funds all over, so you can't find where the money's going. But nobody wants to give us those records. So, and I'm not the only person that's for you this. There are a lot of other people in Lisle that have, and they've been denied these records. I don't understand what the secret is. I find it strange that your finance department here is falling apart too. It's very questionable to these people. And the people in Lisle need to pay attention, because there's something not right here. And I will find out what it is. And I'm going to turn all the information I have right now over to the Attorney General. I have a list here. I'm going to turn it over to the Attorney General, the Illinois Attorney General, the United States Attorney General. I'm going to turn it over to the Illinois Comptroller to make sure it's all been done properly. I'm going to turn it over to the IRS. I'm also going to turn over all the information I have to all news channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, WGN, and Fox News. I will notify all of them. You are under watch. I'm watching. I'm going to watch every penny that goes in and out of this village. But what you're doing to the people that live in Lisle and live within these boundaries is wrong to raise these water rates. And if you vote yes tonight, you're just as bad as the board that was here in 2007 and did what they did. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Seeing none, I would like to start off board discussion actually with the bizarre way that this was brought up about these $7.1 million, that the former mayor stood here in public comment 2 weeks ago and discussed this. And it took some really trying to find the way to understand what exactly his intent was. Because not a single person up here was on the board in 2020 that was entirely accountable to him. If anything financial went bizarre in 2020, that fell entirely to the former mayor. Nobody up here was a part of it. But as in the past he has decided to attack staff, maybe it was that. Maybe it was just about slamming our financial staff, which is unfounded, inappropriate, and baseless. So maybe it's just an attack on our outgoing CFO, which is wrong in every way. She's the one who brought it to the former mayor that it was able to be paid off in 2020. She saw it through, and it's very clear in public documents. It took her several minutes to put it together for the village manager to present tonight. So as the former mayor enjoys attacking all of us up here, he enjoys attacking staff, but nothing about that $7 million has to do with any of us. But it does explain one thing for me. Tonight is 1 year since we were all sworn in. And over the course of this past year, we have stepped into so many things that need to be fixed because of a lack of leadership and gross mismanagement of the village. We are constantly trying to catch up this year on maintenance and taking care of our properties and taking care of our police department, which never should have happened in the first place. But instead, apparently, the former mayor thinks he had to clean it up when he came in office. We're talking about somebody who can't read the annual audit that he was responsible for. So, this is nothing more than throwing anything at a wall to attack the people up here and the people who work in this village purely as a political move. And it's sad, because I don't think this represents Lisle. I don't think this is who we are as a community, and I don't think that this kind of attacking is warranted, let alone something that we should be proud of doing. So I'm going to leave that there, because I found it really insulting and frustrating, and I know staff did as well. And it's ridiculous to suggest that something that happened 19 years ago, which I'm not going to debate because it's well in the past. We are focused on the future, and we are doing what's right for the village now and looking forward. What happened in 2007 has nothing to do with what we're trying to do today. And nobody up here is trying to make a slush fund. Nobody is trying to put any of this money anywhere but back into our own water system. It is an enterprise fund, and it will stay there. We have discussed this in committee of the whole, and so I just want to ask at this time if there's any future board discussion related to the item at hand. Trustee Olson.
Yeah, I'll try and be brief. So it certainly is a challenge, and I can understand, the concern on rate increases for anybody, not just on water, but taxation and other things. But to the mayor's point, in terms of being an enterprise fund and capital improvements that are being projected to need to be completed over a long period of time, as the village manager indicated, the board and staff is working to ensure that debt is not issued when capital improvements are needed. Debt is going to be far more costlier in the long run, wherever interest rates are at, specifically where interest rates are at today, maybe where they had been, 15 years prior. It's a painful decision. It's not necessarily even easy for me with the rate increases that are built in here, but a portion of that, it was discussed in committee of the whole, but I just want to, I guess, reiterate it, is that for a number of years, revenue increases were not matching what the expenditure increases were. There was significant inflation from 2020, 2021 until, frankly, present day, that hadn't really been experienced at any level. Inflation was not a thing that had been a significant concern for 30 plus years. So part of the reason that these increases are sizable is some of it is catching up for revenues not matching the increased expenses, and another significant and more significant portion is to be able to fund the future capital improvements without having to borrow. While it's not fun to save and pay for things at a future date, it is better in the long run. And so, I had vocalized consternation about tying future village boards to increases. Ultimately, I am in favor. I wanted to say I understand the concern, but it is intended for and will be used for the capital improvement, maintenance, and operation of the sewer and water within the village. The only other thing that I'll highlight and appreciate staff looking into from committee of the whole feedback, which mostly came from me, is building in an adjustment for inflation specifically tied to sewer and water through an index that I didn't even know existed until we had that discussion. So that's helpful, because I think that helps to mitigate future increases that will be maybe as concerning to the public, that there's already a built-in inflation mechanism specifically tied to the operation, or as close as you can to the operation of a sewer and water system, as opposed to the general CPI. So, we had already had this discussion. I was supportive, reluctantly, just because of the understanding of the cost that was necessary, but just kind of wanted to reiterate and kind of highlight those points. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Clerk Benton, please call the roll.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee McGovern?
Aye.
Trustee Grau?
Aye.
Trustee McQuillan?
Aye.
Trustee Olson?
All right.
And motion passes. Next up is a resolution authorizing the village manager to enter into an employee leasing agreement with MGT Impact Solutions LLC for professional finance services. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and second. Would Manager Cook please overview this item?
Certainly, Mayor. As discussed at our last meeting, Deputy Village Manager and CFO Mitchell had resigned her position, and earlier today, the village's finance director did announce her retirement in early June. MGT is retained currently to assist the recruitment and selection process for an assistant village manager, but they also provide temporary staffing solutions for local government. The proposed resolution here tonight authorizes the village manager to work with MGT to place a capable temporary finance professional to assist the village through the transition with compensation not to exceed funds budgeted for financial personnel. Staff requests board approval this evening so that we can move forward with placement of a candidate as quickly as possible and maximize any opportunities to transition with the current staff. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment on this item? Any board? Oh, sorry, went too fast.
You want to say your name again?
Hi, my name is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Okay, Susan Sorrell here. Again, now tonight, you're going to vote on something to outsource the village's financial operations through a leasing agreement with MGT Impact Solutions LLC. And the timing raises serious questions to me. Your deputy village manager and CFO resigned on April 24th, and now you're anticipating another departure. And now, instead of stability, you're bringing outside consultants in to handle the village's finances. So residents are left asking, why is the finance department disappearing at the exact moment financial accountability is being questioned? Which, again, I question the financing ability of this village. I have for years. We have had FOIAs requested, denied, or delayed, rising project costs, and now you just voted in a 45% rate increase for water on the residents within the boundaries of Lisle. And now, the people responsible for the numbers are going to be replaced by temporary contractors. That doesn't build confidence, that raises red flags. That's what I say. Who's accountable for the books, who's responsible for explaining the past decisions, and who is verifying numbers you're asking residents to trust? Because bringing in outside representation is one thing, but doing it right now in the middle of these financial questions looks less like continuity and more like avoiding accountability. So before you approve this resolution, residents deserve answers. We deserve to know why people are resigning and leaving the finance department. What's the current state of the village's financial records? And how will an outside firm provide us transparency on decisions they were not here to make? Because again, I would like you to show us where all the money is all the time. I'd like to know where the wheeling agreement money went to. I'd like you to show us the records where it's been. I would like you to show us the accountability of that money, what happened to the money that all the people from IAW have paid in over the years. And until that happens, you should not be moving forward with any major financial decisions. I don't think you should have asked residents to pay more for their water. And while the financial oversight of this village is in transition, I just don't believe that with your CEO gone and everything, that you should be outsourcing all of this. I think that you should find somebody to do it in-house. I think this is a terrible decision. I question your abilities down here. I have questioned them since 2007. And I'm not happy with anything that's going on. It's crickets for Oakview. It's continued, just denied FOIAs. Paperwork that you do get doesn't always answer all the questions. You ask more questions, it's denied. I don't understand. You ran on transparency, be transparent. It's only fair. It's not your personal money. It belongs to all of us. We all want to know where it's going. Oakview deserves to know where the money went. It wasn't transferred on your watch, but we deserve to know where it went. Somebody needs to tell us. There's over $5 million that was taken out of the wheeling fund and transferred. And we have no idea where it went to. So, thank you again tonight. I think you're making the wrong decision.
Anyone else for public comment? Any board discussion? Trustee Olson?
Yeah, I'll just comment that, you know, engaging in these services, the long-term plan is to hire a permanent finance professional. Challenges is the role of that. There's an executive search that takes time. So in the interim, there needs to be similar to the prolonged search for a new police chief, and we had contracted with a temporary, which turned into, I think, more than a year. So that's clearly not the intention here, but you know, the village couldn't operate without a chief of police managing the police department. Same with the finance department. This is not intended to be a long-term solution. It's a bridge to a new financial professional that will take over the department, and just as Chief Rodriguez was hired to take over and run the police department. In general, I'm in support, but just kind of wanted to put that out there in addressing the concerns during public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Olson.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is that doing it this way gives us the opportunity to take the time to find the right person for the role and not feel rushed to fill the role because it's such a necessary position. So this gives us the time to find the right candidate.
Anyone else for board discussion? Okay, I'll just add the one thing that I get the idea of this seeming outsourced. We're bringing in someone temporary to come in and work within our walls to help with the transition from retirement and then transition into someone permanent. I am not somebody, again, in contrast to the previous 8 years, who believes that outsourcing is the way to go. I'd rather have our people, good people that we select, and we have authority to direct and collaborate with, taking care of what we do for the village. So this is not an outsourcing, this is a temporary move to provide continuity until we find the right person. And with that, I will ask Clerk Benton to call roll.
All right, Trustee Sima?
Aye.
Trustee McGovern?
Aye.
Trustee Grau?
Aye.
Trustee McQuillan?
Aye.
Trustee Olson?
Aye.
And motion passes. Next is a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a professional service agreement with Northeast DuPage Family and Youth Services for full-time social work services. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
There's motion and second. Would Chief Rodriguez please provide an overview of this item?
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I first want to thank Officer Gus Galvin. He organized the chief for a day, and Chief Calderon has noticeably disappeared, so I will deliver this report. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this year's theme, More Good Days Together, is a reminder of the importance of proactive, positive support. This was stressed from our social services Janet Yakova, who wanted to make sure that we all are aware of May being Mental Health Awareness Month. We are proud of our partnership with Northeast DuPage Family and Youth Services and the work of our police social worker. Transitioning from the current model to a 40-hour model will expand our ability to provide comprehensive wraparound services, including counseling, resource navigation, and crisis intervention. This increased capacity strengthens our focus on prevention. We're going to be engaging individuals earlier. We're going to be expanding outreach and building meaningful connections with our youth to guide them towards positive resources and opportunities. Most importantly, it enhances our ability to connect residents with critical services that they may not even know exist. While this budget reflects the full contract cost, we anticipate offsetting this through a generous grant from the Lisle Township Mental Health Board. We're hopeful to be awarded this grant. It would be our second year utilizing this funding as we increase our part-time to full-time. We're very grateful for the continued support of this important program. I have a couple of highlights. It's been a year since I've been here, but from September 28th, we've had 57 referrals for domestic violence, a total of 141 referrals for service, and 55 accepted services in total. 56 referrals were for mental health intervention. And I then asked Janet Yakova if she could give a couple of good stories, and she has a couple, and it's pretty profound. But after she typed and gave me these three highlights, she came into my office and told me about a phone call she just received from somebody who she helped provide services. He now has a job. He's going to alcohol counseling, and he thanked her very, very much for it. The coolest part is he asked if he can continue to update her because it's really important to him that she knows that he's doing well and he's on the right path. So just outstanding stuff. We firmly believe in this program. The police department genuinely appreciates the partnership. I see a tremendous path forward with what we can do to offer our residents all these services. So staff requests the approval of this resolution to execute this agreement.
Thank you very much. Any public comment on this item? Any board discussion?
Yeah, the only thing I would say about it is, I remember a year ago when we first went with that part-time position, we didn't know what it would turn into or what it would be used for, and I'm thrilled to hear that it has been such a value to the police department, so much so that you want to increase it to a full-time position. I think that's fantastic, and I'm all for it.
Anyone else?
I just think it's proactive, and I'm happy to see that the hours are increasing. It's a good thing.
Anyone else? Alrighty. I want to thank you guys also for bringing this forward and for all the good work that the social worker's done so far. I love the idea of helping focus somewhat on youth as well. In 2017, we had started a youth suicide prevention coalition in the township that really was eye-opening and brought a lot of the different youth-oriented groups together to talk about how to support them. So this is one of the things that we wanted to see happen then too. So thank you for this. And with that, Clerk Benton, please call the roll.
Trustee Sima?
Aye.
Trustee McGovern?
Aye.
Trustee Grau?
Aye.
Trustee McQuillan?
Aye.
Trustee Olson?
Aye.
And motion passes. Finally, tonight, a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute special events grant program agreements for fiscal year 2026-2027. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and second. Would Community Engagement Specialist Pasden please provide an overview of this item?
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Village Board. Before you tonight is an overview of the 9 applications that the village has received for the fiscal year 2026-2027 Special Events Grant Program. A list of all 9 events and the applicant organizations is available in the agenda packet this evening. And just a quick couple of details about the types of events that we received applications for. 1 is a new event, 2 are events in their 2nd year of existence, and many additional applicants and previous grant award recipients have reported being able to expand their events by offering new or additional activities as part of the Special Events Grant Program. In addition, many are looking to provide expanded event programming from previous years. The funding for the program, there's currently an increase from last year, and in total there are 9 events, which is up from 8 events last year, and 7 out of the 8 events are previous grant award recipients. That includes all but 1 prior grant recipient who is not holding their event this year. Regarding the process that the staff, Economic Development Commission, and Special Events Public Arts Committee has undertaken thus far, we have first conducted a review at the staff level, focusing on program goals and evaluation criteria when reviewing the applications. In addition, we outlined suggested level of funding for further consideration by both the EDC, SEPA, in which those are ultimately presented to you for consideration this evening. At the Economic Development Commission, staff reviewed, the Economic Development Commission reviewed staff suggestions at their meeting on April 8th, and they made 1 change to the recommended or suggested funding award amounts, which was a $1,000 change. Those updates have been reflected in the recommendations that are presented before you tonight, and they were also presented to the Special Events and Public Art Committee at their meeting on April 12th, in which they made no additional changes to the recommendations, and they are presented as recommended before you this evening. So at this point in time, staff is looking to recommend approval of the proposed resolution that was included in your packet, including agreements with the grant award recipients, authorizing the village manager to execute those agreements with the parties that have been outlined in the attached exhibit. That concludes my
Thank you
presentation.
very much. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, any board discussion? Trustee Simon?
The only thing I would say is that I appreciate, this is year 2 now of our, the new iteration of the grant program, and I appreciate the transparency in the process and the ability for all constituents to know about it and to apply for it. I know with the new iteration of the EDC, that also helps. I think the prior EDC didn't allow for that level of transparency. So I appreciate that this is available to the whole community and that they're making use of it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Benton to please call the roll.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
Trustee McGovern?
Aye.
Trustee Grau?
Aye.
Trustee McQuillan?
Aye.
Trustee Olson?
All right.
And motion passes. That brings us to officials and staff reports for tonight. Do any trustees have anything for the evening? Trustee Olson?
Just briefly, I know the French Market had its first weekend. I don't think the weather was ideal for it, but I know it was in a new location, so hopefully it went well. And this isn't really a report. It's maybe a question for staff at the next meeting. Just curious to get some, if there was a survey and any feedback back from the restaurants for Restaurant Week. I think a survey was undertaken in the prior years, so just would be helpful to get any kind of feedback that there was from the restaurants that participated. That was it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Here's my feedback on Restaurant Week. I think I gained 5 pounds.
Any
So
other
did the police.
Any other trustees with reports? Clerk Benton, anything for you tonight? Staff, what do you guys got, Jeff?
I'll just, excuse me, I'll just dovetail a little bit on Trustee Olson's point about the French Market this past Saturday. It's been relocated to Commuter Lot B, and it's noticeably larger with approximately 40 vendors. So come on out. Hopefully the weather's good. It was nice. You already had some produce out there, and I think those offerings will only increase as the season goes on. For anyone who's out there that uses a Warrenville Road over by 355, please be aware that IDOT is planning to perform bridge inspections later this month. And when they're doing that, they expect to reduce the road to 1 lane each direction while they perform those inspections. So heads up. And then, you know, at the risk of stating the obvious, or in case anybody was out of the country or something, last week the new owners of the Family Square site did begin demolition of the old vacant strip mall at the southeast corner of Ogden and Main. This is a timely step in preparing the site for redevelopment, for which our staff anticipates submittal of an application for project review through the Planning and Zoning Commission. Lastly, last week the village held a meeting with downtown business owners regarding the upcoming streetscape project. That's been in development since January 2024, and it's kind of morphed along its course to present day. At the meeting, the village received additional input on construction phasing, on design, and other matters that affect the downtown. While it might be less than ideal, we are planning to press pause on the project to ensure that the improvements that we invest in for the next 20 years are, in fact, what makes the best sense for the downtown area. If it turns out that the plan remains unchanged, then all we've lost is related to time. If changes are made for the better of downtown, then waiting was without a doubt the right idea. So while we recently published front page information about the project in our newsletter, it is looking like the downtown streetscape improvements will be postponed to 2027. That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Village Clerk Benton, please call the roll.
Trustee McQuillan?
Aye.
Trustee McGovern?
Aye.
Trustee Olson?
Aye.
Trustee Grau?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you.